Okay, welcome, everybody. I am so happy to see you all here tonight. Very excited about tonight's show. My name is Mike DeLuca. I am the host of the Integrative Wellness and Development podcast, and we are very grateful that you're here. Very grateful about our special guest. As you know, this show, Integrative Wellness and Development, is not affiliated with any other group, any other organization. And also the opinions and information that is given during the show will represent that of the people saying it and not necessarily of Integrative Wellness and Development or me. Our guests are free to share their experiences and such, but they don't necessarily reflect us. And of course, none of us will at any time or place say that what the information we're going to give you tonight will prevent, cure, or treat any type of illness or challenge that you're having. Your experiences are going to be unique. We will be talking about people's wonderful results that they've had with these protocols that we're going to talk about. But their results are theirs and yours may differ. And that's what the law says I have to say. So I have said it, and there it is. And now we can move on. Very excited tonight to have a wonderful guest who has had a very interesting life and has had some really amazing experiences in the area of dealing with stress, trauma, but more importantly, dealing with very powerful protocols that have not only changed her life, but are changing the lives and enabling many individuals to experience healing and happiness and a much richer life. So with that, I would like to welcome to our show tonight, our special guest tonight, Kameryn Schwarz. Am I pronouncing that right, Kameryn?
Yeah, Kameryn Rae Schwarz. Yeah.
Kameryn Rae Schwarz. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Kameryn. I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction, so if it makes you blush, that's okay. But it's important that people get to know you a little bit before we get on to all the chatting that we're going to do here. So let me share my PowerPoint. Can you see that on the screen? Yes or yes? Good,
Yes.
good. Okay, so this is us. This is the Integrative Wellness and Development Podcast. Our special guest, Kameryn Rein Schwarz, and her website, which we'll talk about a little later, ChicagoCopSeesTheLight.com, and that's going to kind of open the door for us to tell you a little bit about her biography. And then a little later, we're going to give you a website that you can actually purchase the Heart Code book, and we're going to talk a lot about Heart Code tonight. And we'll give you a website that you can go to purchase that book and get one free 30-minute session with a licensed practitioner. So let's get into Kameryn's biography because it is very interesting, just as she is. Kameryn is a former Chicago police officer who has personally navigated the darkest corners of depression, PTSD, and suicidal thoughts. Despite trying countless solutions, it was the work of Dr. Bradley Nelson that brought her back from the brink and restored her life. Having survived and thrived through these experiences, she is uniquely equipped and deeply committed to guiding others to their own paths of healing and emotional freedom. With this in mind, she's founded the Center for Restorative Healing to assist civilians, military personnel, and first responders to achieve their healing goals using these powerful healing techniques. And we'll tell you a little bit more about the techniques that she has learned, the protocols by Dr. Nelson that she is certified in. But why don't we, at this point, welcome Kameryn and say hi, Kameryn.
Hey guys, it is a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Michael, for having me on.
Oh,
And I'm very much looking forward to sharing my story with you guys.
outstanding. Well, Kameryn, let's just get right into it, right? Chicago cop.
Hmm.
Um, probably one of the most dangerous cities in the world. And obviously, you've encountered there a lot of danger, a lot of stress, um, seen some things that human eyes and the human heart should not see. And unfortunately, your brothers and sisters in police, fire, and military see things, experience things, and do things that leave a very powerful impression and depression on their hearts. Can you tell us a little bit about how these things affect our heart when we go through these challenging experiences? And can then you talk a little bit about heart walls? Because I
Sure.
think they're tied together.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so law enforcement, military, first responder, or honestly, even civilian, we live in a world that is fallen. And so our eyes behold things that they maybe should never see, that they were maybe never created to ever see or witness. And they have a significant impact on us. And one quick example of that is wherever you stand on the political gamut, there was a recent shooting last year where essentially that assassination was publicized for all the world to see this young man get shot and killed. Right? You don't have to be in law enforcement. You just have to be a civilian on Facebook to now be so affected by what you see. No one's meant to see that. I mean, I did that hard job to protect people from seeing those horrific things. And so when we witness these things, our subconscious mind goes into a mode of protection. Whoa, what was that? I need to protect you from feeling that emotion that you feel or seeing that again. But the problem is that it can't really do those things, right? It can't really actually block us from that video popping up on our feed or from if you do a really hard job from going to a call that you see something that most humans can't even fathom or imagine. And so when we see these things, we experience these things, we trap emotions in the cells of our body. And I've been told that you guys are all my people. You all love quantum physics, you all love healing and energy. And so when we trap those emotions, the energy, the frequency of what we see, what we feel vibrates in the cells of our body and becomes our foundation, or I should say, has the opportunity to become our foundation. And then what happens is that we can create what we call, what Dr. Nelson talks so much about in the book, which you will see is what is called a heart wall. And there's a great graphic here of what a heart wall is. And so what happens is our subconscious brain creates a metaphysical wall around our heart, right? An energetic wall comprised of all of these emotions to protect us from further damage or harm or suffering. But the problem is, while it's a really, really great short-term gain, short-term goal, long term, it does not serve us. It actually really affects us. So if you look at the screen, you'll see, right, we have fear, anger, depression, sadness, overwhelm, and we have our heart on the other side of that. Imagine this being like a bomb shelter for our heart. Nothing's coming in, but nothing's going out. So in that case, when we go out and want to have great relationships, we want to grow in our job, we want to do these different things, what happens is that not only can we share that love, we can't receive it. So now every thought we have, every action we take has to go through this filter of fear and anger and sadness and depression, right? And then it typically doesn't come out on the other end like we want it to. And a really powerful example of this is I have in the past worked with a lot of couples who are not doing great. Maybe divorce is on the table and they've tried all the things and nothing really works. And so it's similar to, a husband works all day long, blue collar, does some hard job, comes home, goes into the closet, takes off his clothes because he's going to jump in the shower. But what does he not do? he drops his socks outside the laundry hamper. He doesn't put them in, he just drops his clothes outside the laundry hamper for whatever reason. Doesn't want to dirty the clothes in the laundry hamper. Whatever the reason is, he doesn't do it. Well, then what happens is the wife, who, right, has a baby on her hip, has to do all of these things, has to do all the laundry, has to now bend over to pick up the socks, to put it in the laundry hamper instead of just grabbing the laundry hamper and walking to the laundry. And then instead of saying, honey, I'm so grateful for all you do and all the bills that you pay, but it's just so hard when I have, the baby Olivia on my hip and I'm talking to someone on the phone and I have to bend over now and hold on to her as I bend over to get your socks in laundry hamper. Can you just put them in the hamper? After it goes through that fear and that anger and that depression and that sadness and that overwhelm, you want to know what comes out? Is seriously, dude? Seriously, you're so successful in every area of your life. You can't just put the socks in the dang hamper. Well, right, then that causes him to be defensive. And then they just go back and forth. And now none of what they're trying to relate happens. And so we'll talk a little bit more here about the heart wall and how that affects us. But what we're going to learn is there a way where we can start mitigating this? We can start reducing this heart wall so that what we want to display, what we want to share, how we want it to come out actually comes out. And it's not being filtered through this actual wall. And in the book that we'll talk about, you'll hear that this wall can be made of basically anything. I've had people of heart walls of chocolate. You hear about that story in the book. Heart walls of steel. I personally had a heart wall of concrete and brownstone, because where typically you have that issue where you trap these emotions, sometimes the body will create a heart wall of that substance. So, right, I dealt a lot with shootings in Chicago, and that was typically on street corners of concrete or in houses that were old school stone in Chicago. So, lastly, you can see you probably already read it. You're probably one step ahead of me. The results of a heart wall are it really does taint love's messages, really hurts relationships. It definitely creates isolation, and it blocks creativity and success. And Mike, if you remind me, I have a personal example of my own heart wall and how that affected me that I can bring up too.
Great. So, a wall is made of blocks. It's made of bricks. So, does the wall just automatically, magically go up fully formed, or is it a process of, like, a bricklayer would put bricks in rows and then eventually you have a wall? Is there a process that goes that's just not instant, but over time it happens?
Great, great question. So yes. So yes and no, actually. So in in most people's lives, right, they have little traumas here, little traumas there, and we build up this heart wall in the way of protecting ourselves. Now, there are times where we experience significant trauma or life events, and yeah, you could just have a heart wall. Why? It's all based off the subconscious's ability of how do I protect you. So the subconscious's goal, Mike and everyone listening, right, is to keep you alive, not alive and well and not alive and happy, just alive.
So we're dealing with that part of the brain, the reptilian part of the brain that
Mhm.
basically is concerned with two things. Can it eat me or can I eat it? Can I run away or do I fight, fight or flight or freeze? So it's a primitive reaction that
Mhm.
is a subconscious mechanism, and oftentimes it's for self protection, but then it can become self imprisoning. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct.
Okay.
And one thing that you'll read about in the book is that a heart wall definitely serves us, and the body will never release something that's actively serving you. So
Okay.
I was very blessed to have a heart wall as a police officer, because if I didn't, I would probably be crying at every single death notification I gave. So it's almost guaranteed that people in really hard jobs, military, law enforcement, um, EMS, right? Being a nurse, being a doctor, have some version of a heart wall because they wouldn't be able to actually do their job if they didn't. But if you leave that job or circumstances change, it can definitely work to your negative effect opposed to your benefit. And people have asked me, especially I get this question in the military, if I release a heart wall, will I not be able to do the hard job that I do? Absolutely not. It'll actually make you better at what you do. It would actually make you a more capable soldier or sailor or a more capable doctor or nurse, law enforcement officer. I think that if this was, and I'm just speaking to law enforcement because that's my experience, if this was more widely used in law enforcement, I think we would have a lot less issues that we see in the news because you would have a lot more even-keeled, emotionally regulated people who are making proper decisions based off logic, not based off emotional state.
Okay. We've talked about heart walls forming from dramatic experiences, right? Stressful experiences. But are there heart walls that form from gradual, subtle, sometimes even unconscious experiences that we have with other people or other situations that we don't even know that that's what's happening? And then all of us, so is that real too?
Absolutely.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So again, our subconscious, right, is responsible for keeping us alive. But the problem is our subconscious brain doesn't know fiction from reality. So this is why if you're laying in a bed and you wake up with your hands on thinking you're falling, why your body was put into a chemical response that you are actually physically falling. So we can actually trap emotions and create heart walls from our dreams. A big one is from the TV shows that we watch, right? We actually get so attached to these characters that when one dies, we really think that they died. We cry as if someone we actually knew passed away. Another thing too that they can also come from, this is a little bit more of a rarity in terms of specifically heart walls, not trapped emotions, is there are times when we can actually be born with and inherit a heart wall from literally day one.
Okay, let's talk about this because in the book, Dr. Bradley talks about genetic and cellular memory and actually inheriting from relatives that are 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 generations back. How is that possible? How does it work?
Sure. So we are energy, right?
Okay.
We
Okay.
as beings are energy. And so when we create life, right, sperm and an egg come together and create a new energetic being. Well, that has to be created by taking cells and energy from other people, from, right, mom and dad. I shouldn't say from other people, from mom or dad. So in this case, if their cells have the frequency of a trapped emotion, are operating at the frequency of shame, or operating at this, or operating at that, it will literally create a child that has those frequencies already pre-programmed in their DNA. Why? Because they are a mirror of their mother and their father's DNA. And so with that being said, is if the body of, we're just going to say the mother of this child has a cellular memory of, oh my goodness, this song is bad. This smell is bad. This smell causes danger. This sound is dangerous. Then it is possible that that child who hears that sound, his body will respond in kind, even though they've never had a physical experience with that sound that caused them harm. So in an effort to prove this, Dr. Nelson references a study. And in the study, he talks about mice, because obviously they can't do this in humans. So they did a study of mice. And what they did was they put mice in a little container, okay, in a little cage. And the bottom of the cage would shock them when they did certain things. And so what would happen is every time that they would eat, before they would eat, they would put in the smell of Japanese cherry blossoms. So So the mice would be smelling this. And as they started to eat, they would get shocked every time they would go over to the little thing and take some food. Well, the mice started to associate the smell with pain, thinking, if I smell it, I'm gonna get hurt. I'm gonna get shocked. So what they did was they did this, right? These mice procreated and had baby mice. And with the baby mice, they have never been shocked. They never grew up in a cage where they would be shocked. But the second they smelt the cherry blossom, their body and their chemistry responded as if they were currently being shocked. And their parents had long died. It was to show how DNA can really affect us in the memory part of it, the energetic cellular makeup of it.
So this is connected to like the 100th monkey situation. Have you
Okay,
heard
I
of
feel like I've heard of this, but you can refresh my memory.
yeah.
Is
I'm
this where
sure.
the monkey tries to climb out and then they climb on top of the other monkeys?
No, it actually is very, very similar to what you're talking about, but it's memory communicating through the field, the quantum
Okay.
field, in a distance. So there were these two islands that had the same species of monkeys, and they were separated by quite a bit of body of water. So there was no communicating between the monkeys other than between the ones on this island and the ones on that island. So
Mhm.
some biologists were out there studying these monkeys, and they saw that the monkeys would the monkeys would grab sweet potatoes, and they would eat them on the sand because it was a beach, because it was an island. And they found that, if the monkey dropped the sweet potato in the sand and it couldn't brush off all the sand, it would just eat around the sand, which meant that it really didn't get to eat the whole, sweet potato.
Right.
So it had to eat a bunch of sweet potatoes to get, if what they would have had from one clean sweet potato. They didn't know how to clean them. So they were watching this and they decided, let's see if we can train these monkeys. So they went and got some sweet potatoes, and the monkeys were watching them, and they went to the water, and they started washing the sweet potatoes. And the monkeys are watching this like, what is this? What is this jerk doing here with putting the food in the water? We don't put food in the water. And they washing the sweet potatoes, and finally the monkeys started catching on, and they realized, oh, if I take this sweet potato that I dropped in the sand, but I wash it in the water, I can eat the whole sweet potato. So all of a sudden, the first monkey's all excited and it's, going crazy, and other monkeys are watching it. And then all of a sudden, another monkey says, oh, if he's doing it or she's doing it, I'm going to do it. And before you know it, 5, 10, 20, 30, 50, when it got to the 100th monkey washing the potato and eating it, the scientists on the other island started noticing that those monkeys, without any training, without anyone showing them what to do, simultaneously started washing their sweet potatoes.
Wow.
Boom, right? And now we know it's the connection of the quantum field, the consciousness, the group consciousness of the monkeys. They were communicating with that, and the message was, hey, wash the sweet potato, you get more for your money, right?
Wow.
So I'm kind of feeling there's a similar situation. I shared with you before the show, a relative of mine from when they were little kids had recurring nightmares about being in the concentration camps during World War II. They had nightmares about being loaded on the train and dying on the train. They had nightmares of the gas chambers. They had nightmares of being shot and put in, mass graves, and all of this horrific things that this little girl had no way of knowing that this had happened, but she was having these experiences and these nightmares. Well, later on in her adult life, she found out that there was an entire lineage of family that actually were in Germany, and 85% of that lineage was lost in the concentration camps, died. And when I heard about this, about cellular memory and about ancestral, memory. I put two and two together and it was, yeah, she was receiving the information genetically from her ancestors about this trauma and about this fearful situations, and it was causing her, to be afraid of trains and having nightmares and all of this. An interesting thing happened right after that. I was getting on a plane in Brazil, and I noticed that there was a family with a young boy, and the young boy was being handed off to a flight attendant who was going to take him. He was, a minor, unaccompanied minor. So the airline is responsible for taking them, putting them on the plane. So I watched as the mother handed him over to the flight attendant. All of a sudden, he turned into a different person. He started screaming and yelling and dropping to the ground, and he was a very quiet, well-behaved kid that I had watched. And all of a sudden, he's, acting like this. And I was watching this, and suddenly it came to my attention. Wow, this was a past life recall, or this was a genetic memory from his lineage of someone having been taken away from their parents and put on a vessel where they were never going to come back. So, how does that work? How is it that can happen, and how can we use that, right? If we know what caused the situation, how do we use the knowledge of that to reverse it?
So, I love to make the joke if it's something super sciencey or quantum physics. I don't know, I just work here. Um, so to answer how does it work, I wish I knew how quantum physics works because I would probably be using quantum physics much more to my advantage if I knew how it worked correctly. I know that Dr. Nelson does a phenomenal job at explaining the science in his book, The Emotion Code. The Heart Code also has some of the science in it. But both of those books, the Heart Code specifically for working on our things with the heart, what we are talking about, is a wonderful research to understand how does this happen? Though I think the simple answer is, do we even know how anything happens? Do we even know how we are, walking on Earth and not suspended in gravity and all of these different things? So that's probably not the proper answer, but that's the best that I have today.
Okay, you had mentioned Dr. Nelson's new book,
Yeah.
The Heart Code. Let me take this time to let our viewers know, and I will be mentioning this again throughout our interview. Dr. Bradley Nelson's new book, The Heart Code, he has created a special offer, and we are letting all of our viewers know about this special offer. If you go to healingoffer.com and you purchase your copy of The Heart Code, and I just bought a bunch of them, you will receive a free 30-minute heart code session with a certified with a certified practitioner of some of Dr. Bradley's programs, like the Emotion Code, the Body Code, right? So please write this down, healingoffer.com, and if you buy a copy of the book from there, you will get a free 30-minute heart code session with a certified practitioner, and we'll be talking about that again. Okay, so we have trained practitioners who are using Dr. Bradley Nelson's protocol. Can you tell us a little bit about what happens in a session that enables the person who has a wall to, first of all, know they have a wall, second of all, know the cause of the wall, and third of all, begin to take down the wall? Can you enlighten us about that? Because I'm totally in the dark about how all this works.
Sure. So we can go as deep or stay as shallow as you want in this conversation. The majority of the work and how we get answers to those three questions you just asked is done through muscle testing. So I don't
Ah,
know how astute your listeners are in muscle testing, so we can go in the deep waters of that, or we can keep it shallow and then have questions later. But we use muscle testing to determine, one, do you have a heart wall? Two, to help release the heart wall, and three, to make sure, right, we don't continue to build a heart wall or that it doesn't come back again. And so, for those who don't know what muscle testing is, a quick sentence or so is essentially it's using the muscles of the body to get strong or weak responses to different stimuli. And so, when we use muscle testing, we first ask, hey, is there a trapped emotion that we can release now? And the body will respond in kind with a yes or a no via strong muscles or weak muscles. And there's a great example that we can do or that you can find online called the Love Hate Sway, which will teach people how to learn how to do it for themselves. The book, The Heart Code, will actually teach all of this to you. So none of this is a secret. You will learn how to do it all via the book. And so then if you want to pull up, Mike, that chart that you had on that very first slide, that is the chart we actually use to determine if you have a heart wall and what emotions contribute to that heart wall. So, no, it's going to be the very, very first slide where it says the emotion code chart. Yeah. So this chart is in the book. So if you buy the book, you will definitely have access to this chart. And so we use muscle testing. We simply say, is it in column A? Is it in column B? An odd row, an even row, and then we're able to pinpoint and determine specifically for you what trapped emotion or what trapped heart wall emotion is trapped, and then we're able to release it. And I'll have to say, releasing is probably my favorite part because we get to use magnets. And I think the power of magnets is unbelievable. Magnetic energy totally shifts the game when we talk about frequency and we talk about the cells of our body. And so I'm sure many of you remember when we used to have the saying, oh my goodness, be careful that you don't demagnetize your credit card. Because if you demagnetize your credit card, it will no longer work. So we're doing essentially the same thing to the cells of our body, except we're not erasing memories. We can't do that. We're just changing the energetic makeup of the cells so that they don't respond in the same way. Just as you would change a radio station from 99.5 to 99.6, we're doing that same way, and we use a magnet down the governing meridian of the body, which I don't want to get too in the weeds, Mike. We can kind of go there if you want, but it's very simple. It's very short. Sessions are typically 25 to 30 minutes in length, and you can do it much quicker than that if you need. The average release of one singular trapped emotion is under a minute. So it's something that's incredibly powerful. And last thing that you'll read about in the book as well, that makes this modality so unique and special is you don't have to disclose or talk about any past trauma that you have experienced.
okay. That's very different from what we see in traditional talk therapy and a lot of the other modalities that people have seen in the past, where you're constantly being taken to relive
Mm-hmm.
the traumatic experience, keep visiting it in the attempt that maybe you'll desensitize to it. But aren't you really just burning the trigger deeper into your subconscious and making things worse? Yes, maybe?
Yes, I think that there are definitely reasons and times for therapy and counseling. I do.
Sure.
But I think when you relive and you re-talk about something that hasn't been fully processed by the body, you are essentially reliving that, right?
Okay.
People will talk about a hard experience and start crying. And you have the potential to retrap a lot of emotions during that, which doesn't really serve you. And I don't know about you, Mike, but there are different experiences in my life. that I could talk about them ad nauseum and it's not going to take the pain away. It's not going to have me change or relate to that experience in any way that benefits me. There's no healing in that. And so here we are physically changing the cells of the body, physically doing healing. And we haven't really, Mike briefly mentioned kind of my story, but I was suicidal 1,000%. And I had done everything. And it is because of the emotion code and the work of the emotion code, the work of releasing my heart wall, different things like that, that has me be who I am today. Because we talked about it ad nauseum, and I didn't see a shift. And it was really when we started to shift that energy, and I really started to change what I believe, change the cells of my body, that there was a significant shift in who I was.
So, I mean, the cells of our body change
Hmm.
every so many days, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so unless the programming that has been there, unless that is changed consciously or actively, then it's just going to pass on the same reaction in the same wall
yeah.
automatically when the new cells are wow.
Yeah, so on average, this is definitely an average. A cell dies off and is made new every 21 days. It actually can be quicker for some cells, and some cells it's 7 years or more before they procreate and are made new again. So if we have a cell that's vibrating, we'll just say at the frequency of anger, then when that cell procreates with another cell, it's going to create a mirror image of that, which is going to be more anger. Well, if we can go in and change that cell, change the frequency of that cell, and it procreates, now it's procreating and has a mirror image of something completely new. Maybe just a cell with no negative frequency. Maybe just a cell in how they were designed to operate and vibrate in, innate nature. That's how they were created to do. So for me, I had made a commitment that I was going to release one trapped emotion a day for 90 days
Wow.
to prove my mother wrong and that this technique doesn't work and then kill myself. And I very much did it with the expectation that it would fail. I had no belief this would work. And so as I started to do this, we started to see shifts. And I will say I did not see the shift. There was many people around me who started to see the shift, but I did not. And what was happening is I chose that 90-day window because I thought that is a great average to have cells die off and be made new to see if this really works or if this is totally hogwash. Well, I'm sitting in front of you right now. So I believe it's not hogwash. And there are many testimonials behind me, many clients I've had that I have seen, many people in the law enforcement, military, EMS community, even, I hate calling them civilians because I think everyone has such an impactful role to play. I mean, even your trash man impacts your life in crazy. Can you imagine if no one ever picked up the trash? What kind of world would we live in?
New York City. It's
Yeah.
happening right now. Yeah.
And so I think everyone has such a part to play in this world. So to answer that, yes, if you don't ever release that, you're going to procreate not only cells, but human beings who now 5 generations in the future have different medical issues or emotional issues that they have no idea why they're angry. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've heard from clients, well, my granddad was angry, I'm angry, and now my kid is angry, and that's why I'm coming is because I don't want to have an angry kid. What did he do? Well, what that is just merely the procreation and the recreation of things passed down generation to generation to generation.
Okay. So we could go through a process of removing a wall.
Hmm.
I had an experience where a very good friend of mine was going through cancer treatment, and I was allowed to come and sit in on their group therapy. And there was a woman who had successfully uh, reversed and was cured of ovarian cancer. And she had done all the work, and it was a very interesting place because they did frequency medicine. They
Mm,
did special holistic mineral based immune boosting in intravenous programs, but they also did counseling, psychological counseling, and such. So I happened to be there at a time where this woman who had successfully uh, overcame her cancer, and she was cancer free for 3 months, and suddenly she started having the test results show it's coming back. So this was her first day back, and she was, hooked up, and the doctor came and just was right in her grill, right? Um, what is going on in your life right now that was different from 3 months
mm,
ago when you were 100% cancer free? She said, well, nothing much, but, my daughters have decided that they wanted to move in with me to take care of me because they were afraid that if they didn't take care of me, the cancer would come back.
mm.
Boom, right? He said, ho. So you have two people in your house who are thinking all the
Yeah,
time, I hope it doesn't come back, but it's going to come
yeah,
back because she's not doing chemo. She's doing this woo woo stuff, right? And yes, maybe she was cancer free for 3 months or 4 months, but it's going to come back. It's going to come back, right? So is it possible that we can tear down a wall, but if we allow other people to continue to create stress, fear, and anger and other emotions, could that cause the wall to be rebuilt?
absolutely.
Ah,
So we experience hard things in life.
okay.
We're never ever going to live in a world this side of heaven, I don't believe, that is perfect and has no pain and suffering. And so when we release a trapped emotion, that specific trapped emotion, that specific heart wall that we have released or gotten rid of is gone forever. That specific emotion trapped at that specific moment in time will never come back unless you have a time machine and you go back and try to retrap it. Now, can we build up a heart wall again to protect ourselves? Yes. Great example is I released my heart wall after I left the police department. The only reason I didn't release it before is because I didn't know about it. Had I had known about it, I think I would probably still be a police officer today. So I had the privilege of having Josh Nelson, who works a lot with Bradley Nelson, be my practitioner. He still is today. And he released my heart wall. It took a couple sessions. I think it took 3 or 4. He released my heart wall, and I'll never forget the moment the release happened, sitting in the parking lot of Costco. Okay, sitting in my car, parked. There was a little like Charlie Brown tree in front of me. And we release it, and I look over, and there happened to be a homeless guy kind of walking down the center of one of the aisles in the parking lot of Costco. And I was overcome with sadness. Excuse me. And I thought, my goodness, I don't cry at these. It's just a homeless man. Why am I crying? Well, then what happened was, is that night I go home and I'm watching TV and there's a commercial about this cute little duck that gets smashed and it's literally supposed to be funny and I start crying. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And so anything that I saw, I was just crying and I was like, "I can't live this way." Like I used to watch these horrific, military movies that portrayed these horrific torture scenes and I was just stone-faced, which we'll pause here for a second and say that's not healthy either. So don't hear what I'm not saying. And so I texted Josh and I said, "Hey, what did you do to me? I can't live this way. I'm like a crying, sap of something." And he goes, "Well, you could always just build back your wall. If you don't like who you are, build back your wall." Well, I knew that's not what I wanted for my life. And so it took me a little bit. There was about a 2 week adaptation period of me getting to actually, oh my goodness, this is what it actually means to love. This is what it actually means to feel joy. It was one point, I remember looking at my mom at a family event and I said, "Is this what joy is?" And she just looked at me weird. And I said, "Is this what peace really is? I don't know if I've ever experienced these emotions in my whole life." And my mom just kind of chuckled and was like, "Yeah, baby, this is what peace is. this is what true joy is. This is what true love is. And that was monumental for me. Now, have I had built back the wall? That was 5 years ago. There was a point in life where life was really hard. I probably wasn't mentally the best thinking. I had a very gravely ill family member, and I started to feel, wow, I kind of feel indifferent to things. I'm not really feeling emotions. A quick muscle test, a quick session I did on myself, in one day, that heart wall was gone, and I was back to feeling, true life and true joy and true all of these things. And I think that what a gift, what an absolute gift we can give ourselves and our family members to actually experience the world without filters.
Wow. So we've talked a little bit about how the wall can be built, and it can be built consciously or unconsciously.
Mhm.
We've talked a little bit about how we can communicate with, basically, we could communicate with the wall, which is we're communicating with our body. Um, when we are doing muscle testing, we are communicating literally with parts of our body, but are we not also communicating with our subconscious when we're doing muscle
Mhm.
testing? Okay. So the muscle testing, we're communicating with our subconscious, communicating with the body, communicating with the field. Um, and then you spoke about the use of magnetic release, using magnets to go through. Now, I saw Dr. Bradley Nelson talk about there is a specific pathway that is used with the magnets. It's not just, so does that correspond at all with the acupuncture system? Uh,
So, sorry, go ahead, Mike,
no,
continue.
no, not that. Does it have anything to do with the acupuncture system?
So we go based off of what's called the governing meridian of the body,
Ah,
which is very much in Chinese medicine, they use it. And what that is that starts at the tip of the lip and goes all the way down our head, down to our tailbone down here. And so that is considered the hard drive of the body.
ah,
Okay, does what it says it does. It governs, right, our body. So we have heard the term governance, right? You're under something. So our bodies kind of fall in line with the governance of the governing meridian. So when we use a magnet, we typically swipe it on some part of the governing meridian of the body. So if you learn this technique, you get the book, you learn the technique, how to do it for yourself, you're typically going to swipe from your eyebrows all the way down to the bottom of your head like this. This is how you would swipe. Now, if I'm doing a session on somebody else, I'm typically going to swipe from the top of their neck down their back to their tailbone. And one thing that's important to know, and one of the reasons I love this modality so well, is it's so simple. There's no crazy things you have to buy, no things you have to memorize. Everything you need is in the book. And so one of those things is magnets. Why do we use a magnet? A magnet amplifies our intention tenfold. That magnetic energy amplifies our intentional energy tenfold as we swipe it on the governing meridian. But in the book, you'll read about your hand is actually magnetic. And so you could literally use your hand to swipe and have results. Actually, some of my most successful cases have been when I didn't have a magnet handy and I literally used my hand.
okay. So if you're doing a session in person and you are doing the muscle testing and the magnet, I understand how that works. But we were talking, and you said that you can actually do a remote session.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How does that work?
So it's the same. So this was such a challenge for me when I became a practitioner because I thought, man, I already thought this was hogwash in person. Remote, please. I ain't about that. Well, obviously, things have changed. COVID happened. I personally had an issue with it based off my face. I thought that it would not work. The Bible is very clear. Don't open yourself up to anything. And so, with that being said, I went to the Bible, which I believe is true, and got clarity. But I will tell you, how does this work? It's all quantum physics. None of it is woo-woo. And that's one thing that I showed is I'll never forget. God was like, do you ever have a problem with Wi-Fi? Do you have a problem with text messaging? You could simultaneously send something on this phone and it will simultaneously go to another phone around the world almost instantly. How does that work? This is not connected to anything. And so when we do that, we operate on the same energetic frequency of fax machines, of text messages, of Wi-Fi. And on top of that, we are all connected. We all come from the same place. We all are energetically connected, believe that or not, but that is true. And that is something that has been proven in science. I know for sure in the Emotion Code book, he talks about a study that he did where they cut a magnet in half. They shipped part of the magnet across the country. And when they moved one magnet, the other magnet moved. Okay, tell me we're not connected. So, doing remote sessions is all based off intentionality, right? I intend to connect to you. You intend to allow me to connect to you. It's essentially similar to Wi-Fi. You can't just hop on anyone's Wi-Fi. You have to have the passcode. So when we get on a call, your permission is the password for me to connect to you and release your heart wall or your trapped emotions.
That's amazing.
Did that kind of help answer it or
Oh,
provide a little bit of clarity there?
yeah. Actually, it's really helping me visualize what's going on with it. I've been a little selfish here. I've been asking you all the questions here. I think I'd like to, if it's okay with you, I'd like to open up for questions from our audience. If you are on Zoom with us, if you would raise your golden hand using, in Zoom you have those the react button. You press on that, you get your golden hand, and we'll take you in order of raising the hand. If you don't have that or don't know how to use that, I'm watching, and you can wave in front of the screen, and I will get to you. Same thing, we have some folks on Facebook. If you would like to ask a question, type it in the comment section, and I will read your question to Kameryn. Okay, let's start
I
with
think you should call it their magnetic powerful hand.
Okay, raise your
I'm just
magnetic
joking.
powerful hand. Your magic wand.
Right, right.
Okay, who's first? Nancy, please unmute yourself. Thank you. Do you have a question for Kameryn?
I do. I have lots of questions, but let's see what one pops out first.
Okay.
I am not somebody who was a first responder or a police officer, but I did work with children at one point in my career who were severely abused.
Mhm.
And I worked with the parents and the kids, and I was in their house many, many hours a week. And I feel like I was in my 20s at the time, but I feel like from that time period, and I didn't get any support or anything. You just had to, as they say around here, cowboy up and deal with it. And some of the stuff that I either witnessed or had to report was very extreme. And I believe that this has done something all
Mhm.
along. And I've been to therapy and nobody quite accessed it. It's a little invisible to me. But would that be a sort of thing that could have created these walls that I'm totally oblivious to?
Absolutely, Nancy. And first of all, thank you for your service in doing that. You don't have to be a first responder to do that. Like I said earlier, there's so many jobs that contribute so much to others. And so you totally bring up something that I actually wanted to address and haven't yet, is we talked about we can trap them ourselves, we can inherit them, but you can actually absorb these trapped emotions from other people like a sponge. If your energetic field is not protected, you can literally absorb this, and you can also share them with one another. And so 1,000% do I think going into these homes and working and reporting and experiencing these things could have affected you? 100,000%. And I think that you are in the perfect place right now. I believe, right, what we need comes to us when we're ready to receive it. And so there is a reason that you are on this Zoom. There are a reason that you're listening. And I think that this is an incredible modality to maybe help with something that, like you said, other people couldn't really put a pinpoint on or really help in some way. Does that answer your question? If not, you totally chime in and let me know.
It definitely did. It was extremely helpful. My other one was, could it be done remotely? And Mike already asked that question, so I have the answer.
Indeed.
Yeah, that was really helpful, and I really can appreciate that absorb part. That really lit up for me. I think that definitely happened. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you
this
so
is
much for being on here, Nancy. It's a pleasure to be able to spend the evening with you.
yeah, thank you. I'm really getting a lot out of this.
Thank you, Nancy. I always appreciate you attending and appreciate you being brave enough to raise your hand and ask a question. Be the first person. Okay, who's going to be the second person to ask a question for Kameryn? Otherwise, you're going to hear more of my questions. So save yourself the agony and ask your question.
I don't bite, I promise. Or again, it doesn't have to be about this modality. If you
Oh,
have a
no.
question about my life or about my experiences, you can always ask that too. I'm an open book.
You could ask, what is the meaning of life?
Oh,
Why is there air? Well, any kind of question you want. We can tie it in.
what's my favorite color?
What is your quest? What is your favorite
Yes,
color?
right. Oh, love this.
Love that
Yes,
movie.
such a great movie.
The African or the Venezuelan swallow? All right. No other questions, huh? All right, then I'm gonna take this break because while I'm doing this, I'm sure you will be thinking of a question. Want to go back here to the information about what Kameryn has been talking about as far as the book, where you can learn all the stuff that we're talking about tonight in the comfort of your own home. And that is The Heart Code book by Dr. Bradley Nelson. We have a special offer if you go to healingoffer.com and you buy a copy of Dr. Bradley Nelson's book, The Heart Code, which you can do at that website. You will receive a free 30-minute heart code session with a certified practitioner. So healingoffer.com. Please do yourself a favor. It also makes a great gift to someone you love, or it might make a great gift to someone who's creating walls for you. Either way, go get the book. Okay. So, next question. We talked about how a wall starts. We talked about the process that you use. We've talked about that walls can come back if we are not careful. We've talked about what we haven't talked about is what are some of the things, Kameryn, we can do to prevent ourselves from putting up walls.
Mm, awesome. One is being aware of how we think, being
Okay.
aware of what we watch. And I say sadly, but it's not sadly at all. There are certain TV shows I just don't watch anymore because I know what it does.
Yeah.
Learning this technique, right? If you get the book or if you become a certified practitioner, you can learn these techniques so that you can mitigate them. The second something happens, you can start swiping your head, right? Um, and start to interrupt that process. I know that there are people who have really struggled with nightmares or night terrors, and they would wake up every morning and spend literally the first 2 minutes. Okay, is there any trapped emotions I trapped last night? I'm going to release them to help mitigate them not building up this heart wall without them knowing. And I think awareness, like I said, I had released my heart wall, then had some significant issues with a family member and their health, and really started to feel different. So, hey, I may be trapping a heart wall again, or I may already have a heart wall again. I think that I need to start mitigating this. Obviously, I would be remiss if I didn't say some form of session. So whether you see a practitioner, whether it's on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis or once a year to really help process out some of those things. And then I think just I can't drive it home enough. Our words become our world. Our thoughts become who we are. Everyone from Tony Robbins to, Jim Quick to Brian Proctor to Bob Proctor to all of the biggest who's who of the world, Brian Tracy, all say, right, what you think comes to be. So you think like I don't even need to drive it home. Your example of the two girls with their mother is the perfect example. What energy are you in? Um, and how do we make our energy field stronger? There's also an intention you can learn of it's simply just one statement that you just say, I put a shield around me. It's called shields up. Where you put a shield around you, you protect your energy. Um, and I personally use different devices. So I'm wearing something called the bubble that also protects my energetic field. There's other different devices that you can use to really protect your energetic field.
We've been talking about adults.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
What can we do with our children, our grandchildren, nieces and nephews, young ones? What are some of the things that we can say or do that can promote emotional health and emotional intelligence? And what are some of the things that we say and do that can hurt and possibly cause little children to start creating heart walls? Could you talk a little bit about that?
So, such a great question. So, before the age of 7, our brains don't have a filter. So, everything you tell a child, they will believe. So, if you tell them they're stupid, they will believe they're stupid. And if you tell them that they are capable and they can do anything and they are a winner, guess what? They're going to grow up believing they are capable, can do anything, and they're a winner. And so I love kids in doing this work because kids don't have any opinion on whether this works or this doesn't work. It just works for them, and the kids go, I feel better, and they move on. And so I know someone who taught their 5-year-old how to muscle test, and their 5-year-old couldn't even read the chart, but could say A or B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and would go, is it this one, this one, this one, and would run to her mom and go, Mom, what is this one? Oh, that's indecisiveness. What is that? And they would learn. And so I said this before, but I can't wait to pass this gift on to my children. I can't wait to empower them to not have to rely on somebody else. Sadly, one day I may not be here for them, but they will have the capacity to still navigate the hard things of life. Another thing, I mean, I spoke about, right? What you can say, things that you show them, right? What shows are they watching? Are they watching a television show where the character is a victim? Are they watching a television show where the character overcomes everything? I think that is so important. This may be very controversial, but I don't believe our children's cartoons created today are meant to make our kids successful. China has done research on this, and majority of the things that our children watch today are not even allowed in China because they have openly said it makes children dumb. So I think that in that case, that they why what are you showing them? Um, I just love working with children. I'll give you a great example is there is someone in my family close to me who adopted a child from an overseas country. In the process of the adoption, the adopted father had to go before the rest of the family and created a bond with this adoptee. Well, now the adoptee was an infant. Well, now the adoptee is about to turn 3 and has no interest. Well, I shouldn't say that. Has a huge problem having a relation with other family members and will cry bloody murder for dad. Not grandparents can't watch this child. The mom can't even soothe her own child, who she's now had for 18 months in her care. Screams, Dada, Dada. So much so that it's very stressful because he can't even go to work. He's a very successful videographer. And so, hey, have you thought about this work? And that's one thing I'll say is there's sometimes family members who just aren't really open about what we do. And so we did a session. We released trapped emotions related to this attachment between just screaming for during the day. It doesn't matter. At night, during the day, I just have to know that my dad is there. Literally, family vacation, dad went skiing. His daughter did not ask for him once. One time said, Dada, oh, Dada's skiing with mom. Okay. And continued on. What a privilege to be able to help a child who has no idea what's going on, who has no idea why she's in a state of distress, and to give such relief to the mom who now is like, hey, I kind of want to build this relationship. I kind of want to do this and start to release some of these things. And I will point out that the most interesting thing is the country where they adopted this child from is a country that doesn't believe in men caring for children. So you would think that if she was ever to get attached to anyone, it would be a woman because she's never been cared for by a man. And so that's just an amazing story. And there's many stories like that of children that I've worked with, especially adoptees that are in foster care and that have significant issues. And the parents are kind of at a wit's end. Because I was just supposed to put all these kids on medication. Even that doesn't help. Therapy's not helping. Why? Because we're dealing with, right, absorbed, shared, trapped, inherited emotions from parents that they don't even know about. And so, man, this works for every human, and we haven't touched on it. We'll touch on it really fast, but animals too. Amazing for your animals. And I know Anne is clapping because she knows. Amazing for animals. Yeah.
How does that work when you don't have the ability to communicate with the same language?
Because you really don't need to communicate. I've done this with people who don't speak my language. We are using muscle testing and we are using the subconscious, and you don't need a spoken common language for those things. And so, again, right, the book will teach you how to do this, but again, animals are like children. They can't, well, one, they can't talk back. Children can if they're older, but they tell it as it is. A dog's not going to fake, right, being well. Oh, I'm going to wag my tail now, even though I was depressed before. Or my favorite story, and actually the story that made me believe emotion code could work for me, right? I thought all of this was a lie, thought all the testimonials were a conspiracy. I'm not joking. Every testimonial I thought was a conspiracy. And so I read a testimonial about a horse. And this was actually, I believe, could be mistaken, so don't quote me, but I believe this is the first time Dr. Nelson truly worked. He'd worked on animals, but he didn't ever want to get hired essentially to work on animals. And there was a really famous race horse, and it was a very, very successful horse. And they went to its stall and it was laying on the ground, which, if you know about horses, unless they're sleeping, that is very bad. And so the guy was freaking out. We have a race tomorrow. It won't stand up. It won't come out of its stall. Like, I need you. I don't care what I have to do. Like, I need this horse to perform. So he starts muscle testing for the horse. He obviously used his own body to muscle test, and started to find out that actually the horse had these trapped emotions from the day before. It trapped these emotions. And I think one was efforts unreceived, which you do an effort and it's not received in kind by the person you're doing it for. I think one was horror and one was depression, if I'm not mistaken. And as he starts to muscle test and he starts to do a motion code for the horse, and if I believe correctly, he actually swiped the magnet down the horse's back. It came to find out that the horse watched a baby bird fall out of its nest and die. It couldn't get out of its stall. It couldn't help the baby bird. And that after we released these trapped emotions, the horse literally jumped up, competed the next day, and was a normal thoroughbred horse. And I read that and I thought, wow, horses can't lie, so this must be real. Thank the Lord that I didn't have the forethought of this is written in a book that could have totally made up this testimonial. But I just thought, wow, this is amazing. The horse can't lie. This has to be true. And that was really the catalyst of why I started to believe this work. But you can do this for, I personally worked on people's iguanas, pets, maybe some reptiles that I really would not choose to work on again. I'm not a reptile person. My mom has done some incredible work with a cat. There was a cat that was paralyzed that my mom basically unparalyzed the cat. It was attacked in its backyard and got paralyzed with fear, so much so that they told the owners to put the cat down because the cat was literally paralyzed. Released that fear through emotion code. The cat is still a happy-go-lucky cat. You would never know anything happened to it. I've definitely worked, obviously, on a plethora of cats and dogs. There are people who specialize in only working with animals. They choose not to work on humans. I personally choose to work primarily on humans. But yeah, so this is phenomenal work.
Wow.
It's truly the work of the future. I think Tesla was a couple hundred years above his age. And one of my favorite sayings is energy medicine is the healing of the future. And I can't wait to see where we are in 20 years with some of the stuff that's now coming out and different modalities and biochargers and like the machine you were talking about earlier and the bubble and something called the cocoon and the cloud and all of these things that we have. I can't wait to see what the future looks like.
Wow. You lobbed me a softball, so I have to say a bad joke here.
Sure.
What are the three things that never lie?
Oh man, you're gonna put me on the spot here. Give me a second. Let's see if I can think. I will say kids,
Right?
maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Animals?
Yeah.
And maybe God?
Okay. Three things that are three things we encounter every day physically. Okay.
Oh boy. Okay,
Okay.
so I got two of them,
All right.
right?
Yeah, I'll give you the third one.
Give it to me.
So we have kids, we have animals. The third thing that never lies is yoga pants.
Oh gosh. That's
Kids,
pretty funny.
animals, and yoga pants. Okay.
So I think Jocelyn raised her hand. Do you still have a
Yes.
question or
Yes,
no?
Jocelyn, please. Sorry, I interrupted you, Jocelyn.
Oh, that's fine. Um, Cameron, I have a few questions. We talk about a lot of more physical abuse. I deal with a lot of people who have psychological abuse. So the nuances are great, and people quite often don't know they are being
Mm,
dealing with that and affected, especially by pathological partners who are
right.
projecting all kinds of things on them. Now, I have a double question. When you went through darkness yourself with these
Hmm.
emotions, did you have to change environment or did you work at getting the walls down? My question is, if these people are in this kind of environment and they put the walls down, is this better that they are in a safe place before they do it? And how did you do it, being in such darkness, and how long did that take? And did you have to change environment to do it?
All phenomenal questions, Jocelyn. So obviously the obvious answer is yes, don't stay with that abusive partner. Now, in some cases, I have personal experience with friends who it's a long journey to get them to see what you see.
Yeah.
So this is what is so amazing about the body is like I said earlier, the heart will never release anything that's currently serving them. So if that heart wall is currently protecting them and serving them, their body is probably not going to be too apt to releasing it. I would very much encourage them to leave. There are a lot of times I have personally seen that they stay because of a conditioned self-worth issue, right? I can never make it on my own. I'm never worthy. I'll never find someone as good enough as my partner, when honestly, probably the worst of the good people is the best of what they've seen.
Exactly. That's exactly, yeah, you got it.
So a lot of times, if instead of, hey, forget the heart wall, forget trying to release that, forget trying to do this magical shift in them, let's just start with emotions. Or maybe we'll be able to release a few heart wall emotions, but not the full heart wall. So if you can start releasing trapped emotions of maybe shame or unworthiness or worthlessness, and they can start to vibrate at a different frequency of, wait, maybe I am worthy of a little bit more. Or maybe, yeah, maybe it's not normal that I get, lambasted or verbally abused or told how bad I am every day. Maybe that doesn't really happen in normal relationships. Someone doesn't call me these horrific, atrocities. And so then to answer your second part of your question, so I personally didn't change my environment when I was doing this. I was living at my parents' house, which was very difficult for me because I, was a successful police officer. I owned my own home. I was doing all these things, and I was literally living in a room where I'd have to leave the room to go to the bathroom. So I was very much in my brain a burden to my parents and truly thought that suicide was the greatest answer because then everyone could just move on with their lives and not have to worry about me. I also did not do it with hope of succeeding. I did it merely to prove someone wrong. So I forget exactly how you worded the question to me. So if I don't answer it, you can reword, you can tell me the question and I'll pay more attention. But I just released one trapped emotion a day for 90 days. So for me, did I get 1,000% healed in 90 days? Of course not. This is not a magic pill. This is not a magic modality. If it was, man, I probably would be sitting on a beach somewhere with a great husband, homeschooling my kids and not ever working another day in my life. Actually, that's not true. I love my clients, so I'd probably still work. Um, but it is a journey. Now, have I seen clients have unbelievable results? And you'll read in the book testimonials that you just think are literally made up because they couldn't be true. Absolutely, yes. But a lot of times it's a journey. Why? Because if you didn't get that way overnight, you're probably not going to heal yourself that way overnight. Your body has to restore, it has to regenerate. And until we all have medi beds that can restore limbs in a couple hours, I don't know if it's a one-time thing. But for me, there was a massive change in those 90 days. Probably much less than that. Probably say within the 6 to 8 week region. I mean, unbelievable, unbelievable shifts. So, and to add on that, the last thing I will say is I didn't notice them. So other people had to point out the change in my life. Because what happens is the way our brain works is we don't wake up, brush our teeth, be successful, eat breakfast, and then be driving to work being like, wow, good job, body. You did such a good job. You brushed your teeth. No, it's just how it's created to be. But man, when we're in pain, when we don't feel good, what's the one? Man, my foot hurts so bad right now. Man, I have such a headache. Man, I'm such a failure. Man, I'm such a burden. And we live into that. So actually, other people had to point out, wow, you came out of your bedroom. Wow. I had a friend who I called and I said I wanted to get lunch with her. And she very abruptly said, I'm really busy. I can't have lunch with you. And I'm like, why? We haven't spoken in so long. Well, I think this is going to be goodbye. So I think I got to go. Bye. And she had this impression that I was going to lunch with her to say goodbye because I was going to kill myself. When I'm thinking, I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, there was no shift in me. But other people, now obviously she didn't see me, right? She wasn't seeing the change in me, but it was primarily my parents who were pointing out, do you know that you like brushed your teeth this morning? Do you know that you like came down and sat at the table for breakfast? And this is like, oh, okay. But of course, obviously, going back of like, you've been in your room for a year not eating. So did that answer your second question?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, even more so. Yes, a few things I really liked what you said of the whole thing. First, thank you for sharing your experience, because I understand there's some stigma left from how people
Mhm.
perceived you at one point and how you change, and then they had a hard time seeing you the way you are now. So thank you for that. That's very honest of you and authentic to share that. The other thing is that, as you said, as you're healing, there is a period of integration after
Mhm.
where you have to, it's not magic, it's not overnight. You have to have the space, the time to make all this healing happen and sit in you. And the third thing I understand, if I look at the people I work with, is that even if you had all this healing, if you, let's say, the woman that's been out was finally able to get out of that
Mhm.
maze, if I can say so, and recuperate most of what she is, and eventually not, how do I say, not settle yet enough into herself before she meets another, and that happens. Now meeting the next one who has some of the same characteristic will bring all these walls back up. And for me, it's very interesting to hear that because I live it, I see it, I accompany it, and I know it's a reality. So now, if that can be worked with a method that can dissolve these faster and bring this clarity faster, well, that's great
Mhm.
because we, as you said, we live in a world of darkness, we
Mhm.
cannot avoid that. Now, how can we bring more of the light and help people keep with their own as long
Mhm.
as we can assist them and protect ourselves at the same time? This is great. So that's why we're all working together presently, you sharing your tools and that. So I will definitely explore what you're doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Thank you
coming
so
tonight.
much. Mike, can I add one thing on there based on what Jocelyn said?
Absolutely.
So when you talk to those who have left, and I'm speaking specifically to people who have left some of these really horrific relationships,
Mhm.
I'm a visual learner. I love to see things. So imagine, she left and she has this heart wall. And I wish I had a chair, right? Because I would use an actual chair for this. But she has, this water, just pile on a phone, pile on all these things, pile on, this bag, right? And now it's like, oh, hi, let's hug. Well, we can't really hug because we have all the stuff. And then you have the gentleman, right, who has all of his issues and all of this stuff is in his hand. And now they're trying to, have a relationship. They're trying to hug, they're trying to be close to one another, and they can't because all of their baggage is in the way. Where it is so important after you leave to get rid of that heart wall, get rid of your baggage so that you can have a successful relationship and not be like, oh, this is why I stayed with so and so because at least he loved me. At least we could talk. Well, no, it wasn't really talking. It was more he was yelling at you and you were listening. And so that's such for me, when I saw kind of that analogy of like, oh man, and what they actually used was a chair. They actually grabbed a chair and had two people hold chairs and try to hug. Like that doesn't work. There's in no world where you'll be able to hug if both of your chairs are hitting each other. So when you spoke about that, it just made me think of that. And I wanted to share that because it's such a profound visual of how this works and why it's so profound.
Yeah. And I'd just like to add something to what you just said, because something I noticed with someone is that that person, I think, who was carrying all of these charge, had made kind of in the front, the belly from up down was big and also very, 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 very strong. And I say with physical exercise, he had almost created a shield in front of
Yes.
him, physical. So some people do make their own shield of protection based
Absolutely.
on all the pain they had before, and not wanting to get too close to the other one too fast because they're afraid of getting hurt again. So I found that perspective interesting. But then I think there was another layer added to be able to reach to the heart of that person somehow, because it had hardened not just from the heart, but the physical was translating some of that as well.
Absolutely. I've had
Yeah,
people lose weight after releasing emotions because they didn't realize it was a protective barrier for themselves.
yeah. And the last point is about, and that I like really very much, is that you say we are often like sponge. So if someone is going through all of these drama from the past and fears and anger, and we try to understand and we try to reach, now something of that may come and we will absorb. So the thing, what I understand is that there's a possibility that, and then we will, the danger there is that we will react from what we are absorbing and just um, put it back on the other person. We will react and give the person more of what the person already is dealing with because of
Mhm.
our reaction to what we are absorbing. So it's not a simple thing, but what I understand now is that once you figure that out, then you can go and do your own cleansing and get back to your own. And so it's not, you see, so that once you are aware, as you said, well, awareness is the first one. Once you're aware and you detach from that and you let the person live their experience based on that, and you don't try to change or try to influence whatever, then you can do your own, because you have been absorbing some of that, whether through movies or a toxic personality, and then you can do your own and release all of that and get right back to your center in your heart.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Cameron, in listening to you, I'm inspired to see that it's important for us to have compassion for ourselves,
Mm,
that many of the things that we do or many of the things that happen to us and through us have a real reason, have a real cause, and it can be very subtle, it can be over a long period of time. To not judge ourselves but love ourselves to the point of wanting to um, look at how we can heal, and that healing is possible. And in addition to that, understanding that everyone that is walking around is carrying their own walls, and that might be the reason they do the things they do,
mm,
say the things they say, and they may not be aware of it at all, or they may just be reacting to the pain, the fear, the trauma, the whatever's. Um, I don't see in the world a lot of fairy dust and unicorns and magic, you know, gardens, unless people choose to make that for
yeah.
themselves. I mean, children do it really naturally until they start being affected by negative people.
Mhm.
But I just wanted to, throw that out, the importance of compassion, the importance of recognizing we deserve to be happy and healthy. We deserve to heal, and so do others. And to those who are listening and watching both tonight and the thousands who will be watching this over the next few weeks, um, do this as a gift for yourself because you deserve it. Purchase the book, The Heart Code. Let me bring that up. Purchase it for someone you love. Purchase it for someone you hate. You know, um, Going through the work for ourselves affects the entire universe. We've been talking about the field, we've been talking about how we're all connected. Any little thing we do to make ourselves happier and healthier affects everyone. And everything we do to help someone else become happier and healthier affects the universe as well. So I want to bring up that slide again about how they can find out about this. And again, if they go to healingoffer.com and they buy a copy of Dr. Bradley Nelson's book, The Heart Code, they will not only get the book, and I just received mine, they will also receive a free 30-minute heart code session with a certified practitioner of Dr. Bradley Nelson's modalities. And also, you've had about an hour and a half to connect with Kameryn, as I've had the chance over the last week or so. If you would like to find out more about Kameryn, if you would like to connect with her, if you'd like to have a session, or you would like to refer somebody to her who you think she could really respond to, help, I know I am going to, please visit her website, chicagocopseesthelight.com. I love that. chicagocopseesthelight.com. You'll be able to connect with Kameryn. You'll be able to also find out about more of the programs that Dr. Bradley offers, certification programs, his other books, lots of other information there. But take the time to do something. You know, we heard a lot tonight. We learned a lot. But nothing will change unless, number one, we believe it can, number two, we want it to, and number three, we take action. Right? So, Kameryn, you are part of our family now, and we're very, very grateful you were here tonight. I have a long history with the military and with first responders. Have lost some. We lose 24 an hour, I believe, to suicide. I really, 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 from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you for the work you're doing and the lives you're saving and the hearts you're opening. You are a part of our family now. Everyone out there who comes to these shows, you're part of our family. I love you all. I care about you all. I'm grateful for you all. I say this every week. It's true. And what I care most about is that you take advantage of the opportunities to do the things that will make you happier, healthier, and that maybe you can extend a hand and help someone else do that. That's the way the world changes. Governments aren't going to fix things. Billionaires aren't going to fix things. We need to work on making our own selves better, our own lives better, our own friends and families better. Our world will become better. But we have to do it. No one is going to come and do it for us. So please think about getting the book. Think about helping yourself. Think about contacting Kameryn. Do something. You deserve it. The people in your life deserve it. So with that, Kameryn, I want to thank you again. So grateful for you, for all you do, for being here. Do you have any closing words that you'd like to leave us with?
You are worthy of healing yourself. And you have the power to do it. You don't have to rely on any one person or any one thing. You already have the power, you already have the knowledge, and you are so worthy of it. So go out and conquer whatever you're working on, and go be wildly successful and fulfill all of your dreams, because you are capable of it.
I think that says it all. Thank you again, Kameryn. Thank you, everyone who showed up here tonight, both in Zoom. Thanks for everyone who joined us on Facebook. For those of you who will be watching this recording tonight, tomorrow, the next week, the next month, the next year, thank you for making the effort to grow and to heal and to help others. it's important and we all benefit from it. So with that, Kameryn, thanks again. Folks who joined us tonight, thank you. Have a great night, have a great week, have a great life, and hopefully I'll see you again in a couple of weeks for our next show. And it's going to be a great one. There's going to be some great information and continuing the thoughts about energy medicine and healing. We've got a great thing coming up, and you will be seeing that advertised on Facebook, Instagram, and email. So have a great night, folks. Love you all, care about you, and I really look forward to seeing you again in our next episode. Take care.